Oh.
So the people that collecting the monies didn't know what I was talking about when I said I was here for a city meeting and what it was. So she said, do you have a voucher? And I said, no, but I put one in the machine on my way out. So she gave me a ticket.
Okay, we're going to get this meeting started in just a few minutes after we get 3 members seated. There's some traffic issues apparently out on the peninsula today.
You didn't have to pay for it though.
No,
So you just, oh, so you can just use that to get out. No, you don't want.
I have to use
The one you get here.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
It'll be paid.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, they're clueless. Anybody else should be parked. Nice to meet you. We wouldn't have an accident. It's a jam.
How are you?
See, I'm Mark Cabinet.
I haven't seen you in centuries.
You're Laura today?
Yeah. I'm Mark.
How are you? How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah.
It's gunshot.
Did you ever go back with metal detectors trying to find your glasses?
Do you remember that day?
Of course, I
What a
remember that day.
That was
And I got bit by a couple of yellow jackets this past weekend.
What happened? You were out on the site
We were out.
But Laura,
and you hit a yellow jacket
and
nest?
she must have got stung 850 times.
Ooh,
She
And,
got us.
and I started beating and doing all this, and my glasses flew, and I never found them.
We couldn't find his
What were
glasses.
you doing?
Because they look like
that you
We
were.
were on a site on Henry Tecklenburg Drive, which
oh, yeah.
a site that was moving forward, then it stopped, then it moved forward, then it got
The light,
sold. Well, it's actually now part of the Dominion site.
okay.
It got bought, but
Was it the nappy?
If you had been allergic,
The ground.
we would
Right.
have been
Right.
hospital.
Right.
we were hugging
That's what I have. an extra
2
memory for.
magnolia trees. We were up against 2 magnolia trees, and then all of a sudden,
With her
Laura
Laura going
just-
out, 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 out. And we looked over and she just covered in yellow.
man, it was bad. And his hat flew off. He was using his hat.
And then
I think
somehow.
Boston rages them though, you know.
I was just
Water's
far
not
enough away. I probably kicked them up because they were at the base of the tree. I was measuring. And then we flew out of the woods, and then he realized, I can't see.
And they were this color. And with the leaves.
And it was, we went back and we tried to find them. We searched high and low.
Been a long time there.
Yeah, 2-3 years. Yeah.
Huh? Oh, no, that was years ago. Go buy me some glasses. Some people go hard, so you can.
That'd be as fast.
Remove that tree.
And I went for a short little walk. I needed to just get out of the office, so I went right across Inspection Street, cut through over the railroad tracks, went through Gadsden Park, popped out, went around the south side of those condos to get on the Riverwalk.
Yeah.
And when I got to,
Did you see Walter over there?
when I got to the Maritime Center, all those employees were up on the railing taking photos with their phone, and I could hear them chattering about that ship doesn't have any power or it's not steering. Then all of a sudden, this big wake came through the marina and crashed against the seawall there.
This thing says it was full throttle,
Because Walter's been,
14 to 17 knots.
he's been volunteering down at the Spirit of South Carolina, and he brought somebody down there earlier to take a look at the boat.
So then I went upstairs and I learned that
Uh-huh.
this big ship had passed.
How are you?
At first, I thought I heard.
Saw
it didn't
him
have a
running
motor.
in front of me and I was like, no way.
It's
It's busy out there today.
Still waiting on.
Okay, we're waiting on one member to be seated, but we'll go through the intro. I think we can read the intro. So we're going to kick this meeting off with the introduction, and then hopefully our member will be seated here and we'll kick the meeting off.
Okay, thank you. We're recording.
Yes.
Excellent. So this is the June 5th, 2024 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design. Present are Amanda Barton, Ruthie Ravenel, myself, Joel Adrian, present from staff, Eric Schultz, Lee Batchelder. These proceedings are being recorded. We ask that those who speak identify themselves for the record. We will conduct this meeting in usual fashion. We'll first receive information from city staff and about the application and their recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, the matter is uncontested. The board reserves the right to ask questions of staff, the applicant, or others in attendance prior to rendering a decision. If, however, the city recommends against the application or there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and will open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. All congratulate Calvin Yuji for making it to the meeting, so we now have quorum.
Sorry.
moments after. Yeah.
There was. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application, open discussion of the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We'll then make a decision to approve with conditions, deny, or defer the application. Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design has the authority to do three things. One, hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Two, grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. Three, grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54(9)24 of the ordinance. Board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum are present and qualified to vote. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. And finally, D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent properties or the public good, and the character of the district not be harmed by the granting of variance. So with that, I will just, for the record, read the names of all the board members present: Amanda Barton, Ruth Ravenel, Calvin Yuji, myself, Joel Adrian. We do have a quorum.
So, Mr. Chairman, we have an issue again with trying to approve the February 7th because three of you are here that attended that meeting, but Jeff Webb is not. So we'll defer item
Again,
A1.
Right.
And then unfortunately, I guess I missed the printout from May 1. Let me see, Joel, Amanda, Kelvin, and Ruthie. Good. So we
Yeah,
can
we're good.
approve those if you need to read those. There were only two items. The second one was deferred. So 31 George Street, you can see Ruthie made the motion, seconded by Paula. It passed 5-0, and the conditions are there.
Any questions on the minutes, or is there a motion for
I
approval?
make a motion we move to approve.
You, Ruthie, on that second, all in favor of the motion for approval? I in
I'm in
favor.
favor.
Any opposed? At least the May minutes are approved. We will now go to item A3. Doesn't look like we have anything deferred, correct? Yeah.
That is correct. And also, before we get started, just for all items tonight, we did not receive any written comments, so I want to just say that up front. And yes,
B3.
B3 has been deferred, yes, for 3030 Maybank Highway.
Okay. Anybody here for B3? One, we'll get started with A3, which is 1717 Wapu Road, West Ashley. The TMS number is 35115000006, zoned SR1. Request a variance for section 54-327 to allow the removal of one grand tree.
So if you recall, this one was deferred because there was some wires got crossed last month, and the city being the owner and the applicant, they just missed the meeting. So it was deferred by all, so we'll hear it tonight. So we're going to here's the application that was submitted. Again, this is the site that was, I believe, bought with some green space funds. And it sits on the Stono River on the south end or west end of Wapu Road. And it went through a subdivision to subdivide out the existing radio tower that's in the marsh. So that's our one small little structure up on Wapu Road on the small spit of high ground, as you can see there. Closer in, the existing structure will be demolished and a just passive type park will be developed. Existing conditions, the arrow points to the double live oak, graded D. You all asked that maybe the city should consider having a third party review the tree. Well, they're on a tight budget, and David Grant is a certified arborist as well as, I believe, track certified, and staff is here to explain his evaluation if you have any issues. But I agree with the D, and I think the pictures are evident of that. So there's the existing conditions. Again, the one frame building will be demolished, and then a little closer in as to the location of the tree. And basically, we're developing a small loop with parking spaces, covered pavilion, and I believe a small bathroom facility. And then a path, obviously, to access the existing dock. You can see the trees right in the middle of the drive aisle. A little closer in. This Wapu Road does have a 15-foot landscape buffer, and I'll discuss that in just a minute here. But so here is the report performed by David Grant, our park and tree administrator. Then he points out the issues. We've got decay in the base. Apparently it was hit. You can see some scarring there. We got a pretty significant hollow in one of the codominant leaders, and then an actual another cavity on the backside of the scarring on the other side, the trunk at the base. These are just some photos that I took you can actually see daylight through that one codominant leader, if you will, upright branch. So again, staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 39 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the site. Use 4-foot chain link fence to preserve and protect the remaining trees. Because we do have that 15-foot landscape buffer type A, we'll have to just remove a small, either eliminate the parking space or convert it to maybe a golf cart space, but get it out of the buffer. Plant the mitigation as part of the next generation of live oaks in the Wapu Road buffer, and then provide a landscape plan for staff review and approval.
Wonderful, Eric. Thank you. Is there anybody present that is opposed to this application? Okay, is the applicant present? Would you like to speak? Anything to add?
I think we're good.
All right.
Could you just say your,
That's if you have some questions.
just state your name?
I'm Zach Smith, City Parks Department, Capital Projects.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach. If there's no one opposed, we're gonna close the application to the public and be open to the board for discussion.
What I recall last time, the conversation that led up to the deferral was A, that the applicant wasn't here, but it was B, that we had a member of the public who said he was part of the overall neighborhood groups and expressed concern that the plan had changed from what they had seen previously. And since y'all weren't here to rebut that or explain, the plan changed during TRC or whatever, that was a large part of why we deferred it, but obviously that gentleman is not here today, nor were there any written comments or anyone else.
I might also add that,
So,
2 weeks ago, it went to the Board of Zoning Appeals because the small structures in the OCR critical line
Mhm.
building setback, and there was no opposition at that meeting either, confirmed.
So Eric, is it published? Is it published in the local community so that the person who surrounded?
It was, our sign posting, I didn't post it this time around, like I stated, I physically did it last time, but Allison posted it and then it was advertised in the paper. And then again, like I just stated, it went to the other Board of Zoning Appeals a couple weeks ago for the building setback variance.
and did anyone come out for that?
No.
Well, I think it's a good public use and I think the tree is in bad condition. And it makes a lot of sense to have a way to be able to maneuver in the site and I make a motion we move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Amanda, second by Calvin. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye, in favor, anybody opposed? Motion approved 4-0. Thank you. All right, so our next item will be item B1. That is 70 Line Street. It's a Cannonboro, Elliottboro neighborhood. TMS numbers are 460-0404-021, 022, 100, and 102. It's zone GB. Request a special exception from section 54-327 to allow the removal of 2 grand trees.
Well, this is the application for 70 Line Street, owned by CKC Properties LLC and Joseph Callahan. This is a little letter about the site. This is third time's a charm for me. I visited these trees, I think, for the third time. Numerous different projects proposed. Specifically these lots as shown, but there was an earlier project that fronted on King Street and utilized the access to line in the past, and things have changed, but this one's moving forward where these 4 lots will be combined. GB. Primarily an access today with a curb cut. These trees are on the west side of that gravel drive. They have to provide an access easement for the 66. I think King Street is the number, 68 maybe. And then you can see there's been some buildings removed in the back along the crosstown and opening it up for development. Here's the 2 trees. I suspect the elms were volunteer, might have been in fence line there at one point. Pretty close, the southern trees pretty close to the foundation of that historic structure, and the other one's a few feet off. Being pruned by the power lines, the front one, or the power company. Bartlett looked at these trees. So obviously American elms, severe pruning, and keep in mind that this is a special exception, so a fact-finding function. He graded the trees as a C, and as well as the second one. 25-inch and a 24-inch. Location, again, this will be the access drive to the structures that will be built on the north side, again, providing access to the eastern building, existing building. And here you have it. You'll have a multi-family structure with parking, podium parking. And then you'll have two, what will appear to be like single-family houses on the west side with the common drive and parking. And a teeny little office, very narrow little office. Forgot to mention that, built on the west side of the existing office to the east. So just a kind of a zoom in, that little office will have a slight little cantilever, but high enough to for vehicles to traverse, and then also clearance for the 20-foot clear zone for the fire apparatus. So staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 24.5 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the site. It's going to be tight. If they can't get them on, we'll entertain the contribution to the city street tree program and then provide a landscape plan for staff review and approval.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anybody present that's opposed to this application? Is the applicant present? Good, maybe state your name and if there's anything you'd like to add.
Good evening. My name's Joseph O'Callaghan. I'm a landscape architect at GF. I'm the landscape architect for this project. I'll keep it brief, so I think most everything was covered already. But our parcel is made up of our project area is made up of 4 parcels totaling 0.36 acres. We are seeking a special exception to remove these Category 4 grand trees. Our certified arborist identified these as American elms, which are a Category 4 in the city of Charleston, and both were graded as a C, poor form and declining health. The trees are located within our required 20-foot fire lane access to the project site. No reasonable design alternative exists to maintain access to the site. Secondly, both trees are near the neighboring single-family detached dwelling. Visible above ground roots may be negatively impacting that building foundation. And both trees are in poor health, having been irreparably damaged by a utility company. There's some more information in the arborist letter in the package there about the specifics of the health of the trees. But I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in favor of the application like to be heard? We'll close the application to the public. We'll open to the board questions. We'll let you know if we have questions. Okay.
Can you go back to the picture showing the 2 trees and the one that shows the back side of the factory? Yeah. The front trees are no brainer in terms of utility proximity to the structure. The back tree, I would say, has a better chance, but what concerns me is that junction there.
Right.
Where it's coming in, it almost
Just above
looks,
the
yeah,
roof fascia.
yep. Now, in other cities, an American elm would not be a category for a tree.
That's correct. But we use the ISA species rating guide
Yeah,
when we did this, so.
I think it's reasonable in terms of, can we get back to the plan? I mean, in a way, but it wouldn't make sense. It would diminish that parcel. I mean, you could fit if you didn't do the office building. And you could take space from multifamily. But then the whole project probably doesn't work as well.
That might be. Well, I don't know. Question would be is.
Except you're going
that-
into that other easement. Yeah, because the question is that piece. So if that's the easement, then you couldn't shift it, right?
Correct.
Am I reading that properly?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's just special exception. It's not prior to variance test.
I don't see how they're gonna fit the planting in on the side.
I don't either, but,
He's showing 2 trees. Did you
Maybe
spec out
put
those 2
roof
trees?
For the office.
They have not been specified.
just right at the back behind those 2 spaces.
Yeah.
And I mean, they could be in between the 2 buildings, right? Be single family. A little bit of space, something narrow.
Any questions for the applicant?
I make a motion, we move to approve of staff recommendations.
I'll second.
All right. Motion for approval, Amanda, seconded by Ruthie. All in favor of that motion, say aye in favor.
I favor.
Aye in favor. Anybody opposed? Approved, one computer not included. Right. That will bring us to item B2. Will be our last item. Evening B2 is 1890 Ashley River Road, West Ashley. The TMS numbers are 3510700, 027, 028, and 048. The zone CT. Requested variance from section 54-327 to allow the removal of 2 protected trees. Requested variance from section 54-347 to allow a reduced landscape buffer. And request a special exception from section 54-511 to allow non-hard parking surface.
I modified my slide to 1 protected tree, the crepe that they identified in their application.
Mhm.
And then, so we will deal with our suburban landscape buffers that we have on the books. And then as you learn about the project, non-hard parking surface. So here's the application, property owned by the Charleston Redevelopment Corp. JLA, Laura Cabnis can't be here tonight, but we have a member out of her office. The explanation of the variance request. So this is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's some city funds involved in this. What the end product will be is 8 affordable units and 1 small 600+ square foot office. The building will front on Ashley River Road. This is just north of the Sam Rittenberg, a little bit further north, I should say, of the Sam Rittenberg Ashley River Road intersection. It resides next to a gas station, and the city rezoned what, as you can see here, residential lots to CT, commercial transitional, to allow a small office. So that's the zoning map. I did throw in the county zoning. We have a parcel that's in the middle that's unincorporated, but R4, which then kicks in the buffer issue, which I'll describe in a minute. The structures have long been gone. To my knowledge, I've been seeing this as a vacant lot for quite a few years. It does go through to Adele Street, which was recently a dirt, unimproved street. And the county just laid some asphalt on it about 20 feet wide, just to under their suburban Royal Road program, I believe, paved it. Again, here are your parcels, property line abandonment to make it 1 lot. So you have a chain link fence, as you can see here, faintly next to the property boundary. And these trees, the live oak is really large, but the wild black cherry, I believe, is a volunteer, and it's right there at the property pin. And then the tree that's hanging out in the middle of the lot is a crepe, residual crepe myrtle, and it's pretty much dead. So this exhibit is actually modified with the office component to it. It's not strictly residential, so you can almost view this lot as mixed use. So the buffer against the gas station really goes away. But we do have the 25-foot landscape buffer requirement adjacent to the SR1 and the R4 properties. And then Ashley River Road is a class 5 road requiring a 25-foot landscape buffer, but it's one that DRB can allow the building to encroach into that buffer without a variance, but that's the only improvement, and that's basically it. And because the driveway is a necessary driveway to the, I guess that would be south. So you can see it's kind of going to look like two building pods, if you will, with a large hyphen, but kind of read as two structures on the frontage with I assume 4 units per pod, if you will, and then the parking. So I was concerned about the large live oaks, and you'll see them in a minute, but we were able to achieve almost 9-foot offset off that common property line. And then they'll do a non-hard parking surface. And then, of course, the walk takes out the black cherry right at the corner property pin to access the stairwell. And then, of course, the building mechanical units wrapping around the back and the side there. So here's the tree evaluation from Alexandria Reynolds. So you can see the crepes in really bad shape. The arrows are pointing at the wild black cherry. Here are my photos looking east against the gas station wall, looking west back toward Ashley River. You can see the chain link fence on the neighboring property and that volunteer trees, if you will, along there. Black cherry. It's got a lean. And then I just threw in this exhibit of that we've seen it at TRC. We think the drive aisle, because it's a through drive from Ashley River Road to Adele, and then the 90-degree parking that we got plenty of clearance there for emergency vehicles and what have you. So almost 9 feet, which I'm pleased with. Stay off those trees. And then the non-hard parking surface has not fully been approved or decided upon because they're have to work with our stormwater management. They'll probably use that to their advantage to meet stormwater requirements because there's no real location for any, open type of detention systems. If anything, it's going to perk, hopefully. But anyway. So staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 5 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the site, must provide a landscape plan for staff review, must provide a 20-foot paved apron at the right-of-way line to prevent the non-hard surface from tracking into the public right-of-way, and then must provide a parking surface that stormwater approves of relative to the stormwater management practices, and a hard surface for the handicap space in the route to the building as shown.
All right, Eric, thank you. Is there anybody present that is opposed to this application? Is the applicant present? State your name.
Herb Gillum with Johnson Lashover Associates.
Right, do you have anything you'd like to add to the application?
I didn't think that.
All right, we will close this application to the public and then be open to the board discussion. I'll start, Eric. I think it would have been, for me, it would have been helpful if I could see landscape buffer lines, and maybe I'm just not reading them on there.
So there they are there. Yeah, I should have had them overlay. My apologies.
Because it looks like there's no buffer.
Right.
When you hit the next slide.
Right.
So basically 25-foot coming off Adele Street south on that common property line, then it makes a 90, and then it makes another 90 to Ashley River Road. So they're 8.97 on the parking lot. It's almost equal with the back of the building with some landscape and the walk. And then it's probably now, it's what, maybe 4 or 5 feet on the property line perpendicular to Ashley River Road.
So what's the Charleston Redevelopment Corporation? It's not what used to be LDC, or
No, this is F.A. Johnson.
Right.
F.A. Johnson, is he the owner? I guess it's a nonprofit.
Nonprofit.
He does a lot with the city, teams up with the city, partners with the city to provide affordable housing.
I guess my biggest concern is I guess the next door neighbors were notified by letter,
So.
single family residence that faces on 61.
So there is a house, 1892, obviously. We don't send letters to adjacent property owners,
Okay,
so it's posted.
it's
and
only
then-
posted.
And then the 1413. I don't know if it shows up in my photo. But it's a vacant lot. There's nothing there now.
Mhm.
And matter of fact, when I took this photo, it looked like it had recently been mowed, but there's some remnant junk on it and tires and stuff. So there's no structure there today.
So it hasn't gone to DRB at all, right? Though they might,
I believe
well,
it went to DRB for conceptual.
did they recommend a fence along that?
Well, there's a chain link
North?
fence to, that really, again, I don't,
Northwest.
this photo doesn't, you can barely make out the live oak in there. We'd have to be careful of how the fence is
I'm talking
constructed.
about the one, if you're looking at the building directly to the left, where we're cutting down the buffer.
1892.
Oh,
Yeah, where we're
okay.
cutting the buffer down.
So adjacent to 892, they have a hedge, but yes, I would entertain a condition to do a nice, well detailed fence.
Yeah, I think it should have a fence there. The other thing I'm concerned about is the being so in the tree roots of the large live oak, and I think it needs to have an arborist
Okay.
do the root pruning on that.
Mhm.
And when they decide whatever material they're gonna use, you know how it, you know this as well as I do,
Yep.
some of the I hope they're maybe using something like gravel, because permeable pavers, you're digging down more than you are for
Right.
a hard surf,
Yeah.
for non-permeable paver.
I think there has been discussion about basically scraping the organics and a geo mat of some sort and then, but not any excavation.
Okay, yeah. I'll make a motion. If nobody else has questions. I make a motion that we move to approve with staff recommendations. Also requiring a fence along that northwest property line. And root pruning of the live oak adjacent to the proposed parking area. And minimal excavation on the oak roots.
I'll second.
All right. Second by, or if I have
I
Amanda.
have one kind of
Okay.
observation. What do you mean by minimal excavation?
Well,
I don't know how you define that.
like Herb said, just removing the organic, more the litter, sort of your more organic debris on the top surface, but not going down into the soil. So
So
you
they
know,
should not interrupt the roots.
correct. And that's why I will want the arborist to do the root pruning so that they get a nice clean line there for the feeder roots.
Maybe if you structure it that way. I'll split the motion because I apologize, but it's a minimal.
Okay.
That doesn't really mean.
So do we need to redo the motion then?
Just restate number 2 about the live oak.
Okay, then number 2,
Garbage.
have a certified arborist root prune the live oak and only remove the organics from the surface, top surface of the soil prior to installation of whatever method of,
Non-hard.
whatever method of paving system they're using.
Okay. That motion by Amanda, seconded by Ruthie. Okay, all in favor of that motion?
I'm in favor.
Any opposed? That was approved as well. Thank you for your time. Okay.
So you said a fence along between, next to the single family residence.
Yeah.
What's the typical? I know.
DRB will probably.
DRB,
see what to do.
6 foot,
Side,
6 foot, and it will be well detailed through DRB.
Okay, I found out that we have not done the DR.
Okay,
They'll probably,
Okay.
that's right. They want the variances cleared up before they go to conceptual.
they'll probably tell you that anyway.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then as stated, the BD3 is the third.
Meeting is adjourned.
So I might not be here for August.
July meeting? Oh, we don't.
We're no July meeting.
No,
Yeah,
July
July
meeting.
meeting.
Yay, wow,
I will not.
for July.